So your new book, Before I Saw You, is a unique and moving love story. But for those who haven't read it yet, what can they expect from the book?
Yeah. So Before I Saw You is it's primarily a love story. And it's about these two characters called Alice and Alfie, who are the complete opposites in terms of, I'd say, everything character-wise and personality-wise. And you see them come together in some really extraordinary circumstances, and you see their relationship develop. But as well as being a love story, for me, what I think readers can expect is there's a lot of comedy and humor in it from them and also the other characters, but there's also a lot of emotional moments and some, yeah, quite poignant, some dark, intense moments, because a lot of what the book is about is also vulnerability and the defenses we put up in everyday life, and how important it is to kind of take those away and strip them back and really open yourself up to other people and also, I guess, yourself, really. So it's a real mix of things, but it all kind of comes together in that love story setting.
Yeah, it's great. I love the kind of unique thing about, falling for someone that you've never actually laid eyes on and kind of actually falling in love with the person rather than, snap judgments on the way someone looks. I think that's really sweet.
Yeah. And I think it was also about falling in love or that relationship with each other, but also there's a lot about kind of falling in love with yourself and accepting, you know, what's happening to you and actually what lies beneath all of kind of the physical aspects of yourself. So yeah, it was an interesting concept when I was thinking about it, and yeah, I'm glad that really came through.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also one of the main themes of the book is connecting with someone even though you can't see them, which is actually
Yes.
quite similar to the last year that we've all had.
Yeah. Yes.
How have you coped and how have you made connections with people when we can't see them in person?
Yes, it's been an interesting one, especially for me, because I love interacting with people and I get a lot of energy from just being around people and having that interaction. So it's been quite challenging, but I think what I found is using those support groups and a lot of people, for me, I kind of have a real interest. I used to work in the fitness industry, and I know a lot of those studios or those classes where places where people go to for that community aspect, they've done an amazing job of creating some of that online. So for me, it was about trying to apply like what I'd be doing in my everyday life pre-pandemic and just finding those online spaces and communities to still feel part of something. So that was really important. And also just checking in with people. So kind of instead of just being able to go out and see them, it's kind of having that conscious effort of, okay, let me just give them a call, or reaching out to those friends that you probably wouldn't necessarily on the phone or via FaceTime, because you'd see them at some point at this event. So just being quite aware and making that effort, I think.
Yeah, I think it's definitely it's kind of like higher quality interactions. I think now that people are being more conscious about
Yes.
reaching out and stuff. I think it's like really interesting about what you're saying about people going to the gyms and studios and things, because I didn't realize how much like inspiration I picked up from people I don't know. Like even like the way I dress, like I
Yeah.
would see someone's like trainers and be like, oh, subliminally, like I'd just be obsessed with them. And now
Yeah.
I haven't seen people in like a year. I'm like, what is my sense of style? I don't have one anymore.
I mean, my sense of style has been reduced to tracksuit bottoms and jumpers. But yeah, it's all of those things that you kind of take for granted. And I definitely found writing as well, kind of my second book and now my third, how much inspiration I got from being around people, like writing about connection and relationships, but not really being able to have any. It's like really bizarre.
Yeah, it's
um
strange, isn't
but
it?
it's like finding those opportunities, I
Definitely.
think.
And for us, coming up with a great story is a major part of our self-care routine, which has, been so key this last year.
Yeah.
But what does self-care mean to you, and what things are part of your self-care routine?
Yeah, I think for a while I kind of had this idea of self-care was just like these lists of things that people would suggest, and I'd be like, right, well, if I do all those things, then I'm doing self-care, which, you know, in a way it is. But for me, what I've really found, what resonates in terms of self-care for me, is just paying attention to like how I'm feeling and what I want to do in that moment. So maybe it is going for a really you know, a long run or doing a really intense workout. Other times it might just be having a bath and going to bed early. So I think it, for me, it's about really coming back to how you feel and what you need, and then giving yourself that in whatever way possible. I mean, my, well, I say kind of that, but for me, my go-to is always having like a super long bath, like all the Epsom salts, all the candles, and just like soaking in there. It's like my little haven. So yeah, just finding, you don't have to be huge things. They can be really small things like buying yourself your favorite tea, or I don't know, those little things that just make you feel like you're giving yourself what you and your body needs, I think.
Yeah, I think also I think lockdowns kind of forced me to kind of, when all the kind of distractions taken away and you literally just have to self-soothe because there's no one else there. It's kind of taking it back to basics,
Yes.
isn't it? Like getting in the bath and eating right and making sure you drink all your water, and actually feel so much better for it. But I think when you're in the kind of like normal life and everything's busy, 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 it's so like easy to
Yeah.
put yourself last. And I think hopefully one thing that we can all take from lockdown is kind of, you know, looking after yourself and how much it makes you feel better, I suppose.
Yeah. And I think that is, and I'm very guilty of it. Like I will very much go through periods of being very nourishing to myself, very like calm and grounded. And then the next minute I'm like, like doing all these things, or, you know, or, you know, even when we had that freedom, that kind of little gap during the lockdown, it was like, well, now I need to go and do everything. And it's like, how do you find that balance? And like, remember those things that make you feel calmer or, yeah, more relaxed,
Yeah,
whilst balancing it with doing all these other things. Yeah.
definitely. What kind of things or activities in particular help you feel like really relaxed?
So the bath will be number one. Number one spot is the bath. Um, and then I guess as well with what I do and writing, it's like a lot of time spent in my head, which is a wonderful place sometimes, but it also can be quite a lot. So anything that really helps me get back into my body. So every morning I will spend at least 20 minutes just stretching, like not even like, you know, an intense yoga class or a full kind of flow, but just moving my body. Meditation is really helpful for me. Walking outside in nature, again, anything that kind of switches me out of here and brings me back down to kind of a more grounded state is very, for me personally, is really important. And then yeah, reading, I just love kind of losing myself in a book or a film. Again, that escapism, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think lockdown one, I went through a phase of you know, aromatherapy associates. They do like really nice like bath oils,
Mm.
like a couple of drops in. It's like it doesn't give you any kind of bubble bath or anything. It just smell was amazing. I just sat there
No,
like zenning out. It was great.
it's, yeah, like smell is so powerful, I
Yeah,
think. And yeah, some lavender or whatever, just to really like, again, it's just taking you out of your current state and
yeah.
switching it into something else. It's amazing.
Yeah. I think also like yoga is definitely a skill. I think when I started doing it, I was like, you know, it's not for me. Like I need, you know, something to kind of pump me up. But I think like the skill is
Yes.
in relaxing.
I am exactly the same. I was like on my mat, like, oh, God, this is so slow. What's going on? Like, you want me to just breathe? I know this is too much for me. And I think we forget like that is the work is like, can you be slow? Can you sit and just like be in a posture? I mean, I was like, no, I can't at first, but then you just, yeah, you just have to like really practice, you know?
Yeah, definitely. Um, what are your top three tips to help look after yourself?
Okay. Number one would be moving the body. So again, whatever that means to you as an individual. And also not just feeling like you have to do the same thing, you know, just because you really like, I know I love spinning, like a huge part of my life. But does that mean every time, every day I have to do it? Like, no, probably not. So just finding and doing things that make you feel good, that gets you moving, even if it's like 10 minutes, just again to really re-energize you and get you out of that headspace. Um, and then the second thing I'd say is, for me as well, what's really been helpful is getting whatever's on the inside out. So expressing that, whether that's through writing and journaling or dancing or art or something that just helps you, especially at the moment, I think, where conversations with friends or distraction is removed, we can really hold a lot in. And I think as just trying to find a way to release a little bit is just a really powerful way to like free up some space. And then I think the third one would be kind of scheduling time for yourself. I know we were just talking about like how easy it is to then get sucked back into distraction, but even if it's like an afternoon a month or even like an hour a month, to be like, for this hour I'm just going to do what I want to do. But just as you would schedule time for like your friends or a meeting, kind of try and block some time out and make it like a regular meeting with yourself. And I think those things have really helped me
Yeah,
kind of prioritize that time.
definitely. I think I found running really helpful. Like I've always been a runner, but I've really pushed it. And I think it's because when you have so much kind of like thoughts and kind of emotional energy going on, sometimes you just need to be physically exhausted for your mind to calm
Yeah.
down. It's kind of, I wouldn't have
Yes.
got it before, but now I'm just like, whenever I go for a run, I'm like knackered. I'm like, yes, now I can relax. Like, even though nothing's.
Yeah. And it's such a different feeling, like that mental exhaustion and then like the physical, but it's almost like you have to kind of get it out somehow, otherwise it just kind of stays in. So yeah, I definitely think running's an amazing way as well to
Yeah.
just, it's a real kind of rush, you know.
Yeah. And I like
Yeah.
it's kind of like my whole body as well. Because I've done like other things where, when you're on the cross trainers, or like that was
Oh
just too
yeah.
much arms. And like I've done things that are really leg. And, like, I need the whole body like to be engaged.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, just to like really get
Yeah.
everything
Have
moving.
you
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
have you ever thought about using a bullet journal to get stuff down? Because I've been loving bullet journals.
Yeah, I have. I've kind of I I know quite a few of my friends find journaling quite hard. I love it. I can write. I can just write all the time. So for me, I really enjoy that process of kind of just free writing. But I have gone through periods where I have used bullet journaling and it's been really brilliant, especially when I've not got that much time, because it's just like super succinct, get it done, and you feel like, right, you know.
Yeah.
So mixing up as well and just doing whatever feels good depending on what time you have as well. I think being flexible.
Yeah, definitely. And you
Yeah.
get to use lots of cool pens, which
Oh,
was great.
stationery. I'm like, yes, love it.
What has brought you joy recently?
Being at home with my dog has built me a lot of joy. Massive. Um, yeah, I think I was really struggling for a while with kind of movement and exercise. And I was a bit like, it kind of became a thing where I was like, I know I should do it, but like then when I have that, it just feels like it's mandatory, and then it kind of doesn't feel. And then I was just really in this rut. And then I actually have a coach working with a really amazing woman at the moment, and she was like, just do something that feels fun. And I was like, okay. And I found this class, and it's called The Class. And for periods, you just dance. And at first, I was like, this feels so embarrassing. And then I just completely let go. And I was like, oh my God, I have missed listening to music and just dancing and just, again, being really free and just having fun. And so for me, that was an amazing experience and just reminded me of like having fun. Like it's okay to like do something that's silly and get that rush. So I've been doing that quite a lot and just listening to music super loud and just dancing for a bit. So
Yeah.
yeah, all of those things that we don't really do at the moment, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think So I did ballet before the pandemic, and I think there's something
Oh,
about dancing and
wow.
like being like, it's like taking you back to being a child, you know, when like movement wasn't a chore and
Yes.
like it's just kind of you're free and no one needs to nag you to do it. You're just like loving it. It's kind of like tapping
Yes.
into that.
Yeah, it's really playful. Yeah.
Yeah,
And like normally for me, music as well is so it's so emotive and like reminds me of all those amazing times like with my friends at festivals or when we went out on a in a dance, you know, all of those things that really bring you memories of joy, I think as well. It kind of brings all of that back.
definitely. I think there's
Yeah.
going to be a fair few parties this summer once we're all released.
I just can't wait to be like karaoke, dance floor. I'm there, that's me. I'm happy.
So this past year and the lockdown has obviously been an exceptionally challenging time. But is there something in
Hmm.
particular that's helped lift your spirits all the way through?
Um, I think, and I think we touched on it earlier, it's finding those communities and support networks that there's not that pressure to kind of show up all the time because I know, you know, it's been a really tough time and everyone's going through different things, but knowing that those people are there and ready to support you, for me, that's been huge. And I think people have done an amazing job of creating those spaces. Um, so yeah, I kind of have a few of those. It's like a group of amazing women that run like yoga sessions and meditation circles, and also just again pockets of friendship groups that you know you can dip it in and out of whenever you need, but you know that they're there and they're kind of your support network. So for me, that's been
Yeah,
kind of like the foundation, I think, of kind of getting me through this last year.
definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah, I hope, you know, when everything does go back to more normal, that that kind of connection that everyone's kind of had stays. Because I think people
yeah,
have kind of noticed how important it is and all the different ways that it can happen. It doesn't have to be in person all the time. And I
yeah,
think like, yeah, people have been more social when they can't see each other, which sounds odd, but
yeah. And I think it comes back to what you said about that like quality interaction. I think when you see someone out and about or you pass them when you're, you know, you grab a coffee really quickly or you go for, you know, you see them in the office or whatever, you kind of take for granted that that's been an interaction. Um, and so I think it's, yeah, changing that mindset about like being really present and kind of reaching out and having that interaction with a person intentionally.
yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
What makes you feel inspired?
Yeah. I mean, I kind of said earlier, I think other people, I find people so interesting. And yeah, overhearing conversations or just observing the way people interact, I just find it so fascinating. And I think I do get a lot of inspiration from, yeah, other human beings and their dynamics and just seeing them in everyday life. So that has been, yeah, been quite tough when we've all been behind screens or kind of away from that. But yeah, I would definitely say experiences and experiencing different cultures and different environments and just opening my eyes to the way different people live and connect and yeah, live their life is a big inspiration for me.
Yeah, I love so I live in London and I love not many people speak on the tube, but when you get people who aren't from London, they're always having conversation. Everyone hears it.
Yes,
It's so quiet. I just love it. I
yes.
love listening to people.
Oh
So
yeah.
true.
It's like in the when I used to work, um, so I left my job in before the lockdown actually. But even being in an office environment, there was so even in like a meeting, like seeing all the different personalities and like all the mannerisms, like it was just amazing, like all these characters. Um, so yeah, I'd love it. I'd just be there watching,
Yeah.
working, but watching and just absorbing, you know, it's amazing.
Definitely. Yeah, I think that's the thing about working from home is that you don't get that chatter in the background. And I think like, yeah, you do
Yes.
miss like there was so much gossip and I'm like, I'm gossip starved. I'm like, I need it. I
Oh,
need to do something.
yeah. And like, again, you just forget all of those things that were your background noise that just you kind of except you kind of just thought, you didn't even realize it was there until it's gone, and you're like, oh my god, that was such a huge part of the atmosphere, you know.
Yeah, I think there was a Spotify playlist in lockdown one, which is basically like office chatter, so you could put it on.
Oh my god, amazing. Just have them there in the background. Yeah.
um, so obviously we love books, and we want to know, your tastes and everything. So what have you read recently that you've loved?
Yeah, and I always find this interesting because sometimes I'm like, when you're like, oh, what do I read? But I think when I'm writing, especially, I tend to read very light-hearted, or things that aren't too much hard work, or are quite different to what I'm writing. Otherwise, it becomes too. So I did read a book the other day, well, quite recently, called Away with the Penguins by Hazel.
Yeah,
And it was just so, it's one of those things that I was like, okay, this could be fun. Read it, and it was so sweet, and it was just so lovely. Um, and yeah, I just really enjoyed the characterization. It was something that, especially at the moment when everything does feel quite heavy, something that was really uplifting and just quite fun. So I just thought it was like a really sweet little find, and I really enjoyed it. So
yeah,
that was I'd say that one.
definitely. Yeah, I think I've been kind of reading lighter things as well. I think like
Mm.
my friend tried to recommend something about like a virus, and I was like, no, never.
Oh, oh. I
Not
mean,
for
I
any.
started watching Grey's Anatomy again. Why did I do that? My sister would be like, "Are you okay?" I'd be like sobbing in the lounge. I was like, "No, I'm not.
Yeah,
Why? Why?"
I need
Yeah,
10 years of rom-coms before I can go.
yeah. You need some levitt. You need something that's like, there is hope.
Yeah,
This is hopeful. Yeah.
definitely. What's the one book you're constantly recommending to people?
So I'd say, yeah, actually, normally it's something quite heavy and quite dark. Normally, my go-to is A Little Life.
I love
Um,
that book. It's
oh my God.
amazing.
But again, it's one that you really need to like emotionally prepare yourself for. Which I have to give like my friends warning. I'm like, if you're not ready for this, just don't do it. But recently it's been the Thursday Murder Club, which I know has been a huge success. And I was kind of a bit skeptical before I read it, because I was like, oh, everything's a big hype about it. And then I read it and I was like, oh yeah, it was just brilliant. And I absolutely loved. For me, character is such a huge thing with books, and I just fell in love with the whole world that he created. And yeah, I'm just like, if you want something that's fun, interesting, not necessarily like a love story, which I know usually is my go-to, that is what I've been kind of recommending to quite a lot of people at the moment.
Yeah, that's a really clever one, actually. I think like the characterization as well. And also, I like the older characters because I think a lot of kind of
Oh,
books don't really use that a lot. And I think the fact that they're like sassy and, still full of
yeah,
life is great.
I am obsessed with old people. It sounds weird, but in my books, they like, my agent was like, "You love writing an older character." I was like, "Yes," because I just feel like they have earned the right. They have these personalities, and they've got that wisdom that they can be those really like sassy or sarcastic or like bold characters. I just love them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. And they've got so much experience and like wealth of knowledge. And I think you never feel old. Like I feel 14
No.
in my head. Like, and I'm sure as I
Yes.
get older, I'll still stay that way. So
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
I think they're brilliant. I think they are awesome to write, and I love reading about them as well.
Yeah. So which book are you excited about reading in 2021?
Yeah, there's quite a few. There's some amazing books coming out. Sally Rooney's got a new book coming out, which I'm very excited to
Yeah,
read.
excited.
Again, I think there'll be a lot of hype about that. Um, but I think there's one that's really piqued my interest. And again, it kind of brings me back to like when you were saying about being young, but I was always intrigued by these like mystical kind of like elements of non-reality. But it's called Body of Stars.
Ooh,
Yeah, and it sounds very intriguing. It's got a real feminist aspect as well, but it's about like women and they're born with markings on their bodies which reveals their future, and it's all about that society, but it's not available to men. And it's just those things that I would never really write, but it seems to be a very interesting themes, and also a book that you could really just kind of escape to. So it's by Laura Maylin Walter, and it's coming out this year, I think. So
I would definitely look out for that one. I love the kind of like magical realism. Like I don't know if you've read it, When God Was a Rabbit, Sarah Winman.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
kind of so it makes it more poignant without kind of going into the kind of extreme fantasy. It's just kind of like just moving and tender and kind of just a little bit of kind of magic in there. It's great. I love
yeah,
that kind of stuff. Yeah.
yeah. And I think, it's a very interesting to read things for me that I wouldn't necessarily write. I mean, I would love to write that, and I probably may do at some point, but again, opening your mind and expanding and reading different stories by people that aren't within your kind of little sphere of genre. So yeah, I saw that and was really excited. So that is on my to order
Yeah.
list.